Howdy, folks. So I'm back today to talk again about the prestige situation in MCOC. We are in the process of switching over from this top 5 prestige system that's been in place for, well, since the inception of the game, to now the top 30 champs on your roster affecting you with prestige. I did a video a few weeks ago about prestige. It was really more about the question, how much are people going to have to worry about prestige going forward? Some people were worried about the fact that, it's now such a big percentage of your roster that it gets factored into prestige at calculations. And the fact that prestige now affects EQ in addition to just AQ, well, now is it going to be that much more impactful, right? And so if you're interested in that, you haven't seen my previous video, please do go and watch that one. But this particular video is really just more about what is the data around prestige at this moment. So looking at alliances, right? What is the, let's switch over from top 5 to top 30 prestige look like, or what is it going to look like in just a few days for them? And on the summoner level, right? What does that change look like? So I have up here right now the top AQ alliances in the game, which means the top prestige alliances in the game, and it's sorted by the top 30 prestige. So that we can start to take a look at, who comes out on top, and we see that NY718, NYC Guardians. Certainly for those who have looked at the AQ leaderboards before, you're going to say that's a very familiar name to see at the top of the list. One thing I want to point out is just how big their lead is at this early stage of the top 30 prestige race. So, number 1 versus number 2, they have a 700 almost point lead over the number 2 alliance. So, they've clearly been going through a lot of effort to prepare for this top 30 situation. I have here not just, I guess, the ordering by top 30 prestige. You can see I also have the top 5 prestige in column number 3 here. Top 30 prestige is shown in column number 4. Then we have, from a ranking perspective, okay, well, what was their rank based on their top 5 prestige? Next one is top 30 prestige. And then the 7th column is showing, well, how does the rank change from the top 5 world to now this new top 30 world? And so you can start to see that, well, at the top, at the very least, right, the magnitude of the changes, for the most part, isn't that much. You see a lot of +1s, -1s, -2s. Next makes a pretty big jump, given that they were already so high, right, to going from number 11 to number 6. For Loki, even bigger jump, going from number 20 to number 8. We see some other big jumps here in the top section. So Savage Squad going up 14 spots. Phoenix going up 10 spots. I can't pronounce this one's name, but 13 spots is impressive. New Nation going up 26 spots. Very impressive. So, some of those names of these alliances that are going up quite a bit. If you think about it, it's not that surprising that some of these alliances are teams that, yes, they, obviously they cared about AQ, but probably their primary focus was alliance war. And also these alliances have a lot of very long-time players with very well-developed rosters. So they're really it makes sense that they're going to benefit more from this change that, okay, well, they came in kind of ready out of the box, right? That having such a deep roster, they're naturally going to have a very good top 30 prestige if they've been playing the game at a high level for so long. So beyond just, looking at some of these individual rank changes, I have this little summary here I'll bring up. So there's 200 teams that I'm looking at here, the top 200 teams from last week's AQ. And so out of those 200, 66 of those, so almost a third, are changing tiers. So if you think of the tiers top 1, top 5, top 10, top 20, basically different cutoff points for when your rewards change in AQ, right? So that's actually quite there's a bigger change than I had predicted in my last video. So yes, almost a third of the top 200 teams are actually going to be moving into a different bracket. At least the way that things currently stand. They're projected to move into a different bracket once we switch over to the new system. At the extremes, there's one alliance that actually jumped 57 spots. There's another alliance that, unfortunately for them, they're dropping 49 spots. If you look at if you're trying to just take the magnitude of the changes, right? So the absolute value of all the changes and then average them. So the average change is 14 spots. Again, that's a bigger change than I would have predicted. You have 10% of teams that are changing by 30 or more spots and 5% that are changing by 41 or more spots. So Yeah, it is going to be impactful for a lot of teams, and as we get a little bit deeper into the numbers, you'll see that probably there's going to be over the next few weeks to months, the changes are going to become even that much more significant. Okay, so zooming in a bit and looking at the cutoff marks, right? So again, it's the rewards change at number 5, number 10, number 20, 30, 45, 90, 150, right? And so looking at if you were to take the alliance prestiges as they are today, and then just say, well, who's at spot 10, 20, 30, 45, and what are their top 30 prestige numbers, you can see that at top 30, it's going to be 30.5K, top 45, 29.8K. And my reaction to that is, I'm actually kind of surprised that these feel like very achievable prestige numbers. And now, obviously, that's there's a very wide range of different experience levels, different lengths lengths of time that you've actually been playing this game, right? So that can't be a blanket statement that applies to everybody. But for people who've been playing 6, 7, 8+ years, right? People who are end game players, and people that haven't necessarily been super prestige focused. This is actually a fairly achievable number. I'm someone who hasn't been prestige focused in years and years, not since the days of 6 stars. I haven't been pushing Alliance War Battlegrounds in a long time now, and I don't really spend that much money on the game anymore. My spend this year is near zero, and my prestige is 29.4K, so I'm almost in the top 45 range, and so. Yeah, it feels to me like if you want to get into the prestige race, this is your best time to do it, because these prestige numbers are really fairly achievable for someone who is an endgame player who has a reasonably well-developed roster already. I believe this situation, based on some of the numbers I'll go over in a second, is actually going to change. How rapidly it's going to change, I don't know, right? That's one of the things I'm going to be interested to see, but there's definitely a lot of room for it to change, and I'll explain why. So switching gears now to look at the summoner leaderboard for Prestige. And one caveat before we get started is that these are only the people who are in one of those top 200 alliances that I've just been covering. So there are some people that have very, very high prestiges that apparently just don't do AQ, and so they're not going to show up in these rankings. So for example, if you look at the top base hero summoner rating leaderboard, the very top person, Walter, he actually doesn't show up in this list at all. And not that, top base hero rating necessarily means top prestige, but it's very unlikely that the very number one base hero rating person would not also have a very, very, very high prestige, right? So, so this isn't going to be a complete leaderboard, but it should be 99% of the way there. So with that caveat out of the way, so looking at the number one person, Angsty Angus from NY718, and look at that prestige. So 35.736K, and actually. I captured his profile as well, and in the time in between, just a day and a half ago that I captured this this prestige information, and now looking at his profile, he's added another 6 points to his prestige. But so 35,742 for an overall, and then the champion prestige 33,667. So if I have my numbers correct, the top possible champion prestige at this point, if you have the top 30 prestige champs all at rank 4 sig 200, it's 33,675. So he's only 8 points off the top possible top 30 prestige, which is just crazy to think about. And the other crazy thing is that going back to this list is that there's a lot of people who aren't that far behind. That 35.7ish. There's quite a few people. You can see Usafa here, number 6. Come on, step up your game, Usafa. I'm actually going to blank out the names, because as we go further down the list, I don't want anybody to feel called out. But so getting back to my point about the fact that the prestige race probably is going to continue to change quite significantly from an AQ perspective, from an alliance perspective. The reason why is that, actually, let's take this off. Let's quickly go back to the cutoffs, right? And so top 30 cutoff is 30.5. 30 alliances times 30 members per alliance, right? You're talking about 900 summoners who are in those 30 those top 30 alliances, right? And so coming back to the summoner leaderboard, and now putting this little mask back on, and now let's see. Well, if we just take the top 900 summoners in the game, what does that cutoff look like? And it's quite a bit higher, right? 31, almost 31.1. If you were actually to look forward for where does 30.5 fall in, you have to scroll quite a bit. Actually see just how far we go. All right, we passed it. So 30.5, we're actually talking about 1,200. So there's another 300 people below the the top 900 people who theoretically could be in those top 30 alliances that actually have higher prestige than that top 30 cutoff right now, right? So I won't go through the rest of the cutoffs, but it's the same kind of situation. And that's why I'm saying that, well, over time, for those alliances that really want to focus hard on AQ, there's clearly a lot of room for them to pick up some people who maybe didn't have very high top 5 prestige, but now have very high top 30 prestige and, have a chance to be promoted in a sense, right? So obviously, beyond a few alliances, and I don't even know what the number is, right? But outside of maybe top 5, 10, 20 alliances, you start being less and less maniacal about just trying to have your alliance populated with the absolute highest prestige people that you can possibly find. There's also factors like whatever, if you're also doing alliance war or just, friendships that you've built over time and you want those people to be in the alliance. So it's not like you're going to have a perfect ordering of the top 30 alliances or have the top 900 people by prestige in the game, but there clearly is a lot of room for at least some people to make moves. That's one of the things I'm interested in, is to see, Joel, just how quickly does that happen and what's the magnitude of that happening. So I'm interested in where this prestige race is going to go. I do intend on making periodic videos about just updating the prestige race. So if that's something that interests you, and you're not subscribed to the channel already, please do give me a sub. Even if you're not that interested, please, I'll make other content as well. So give me a sub, share this with anybody you think might be interested, your alliance mates, your friends. I really do appreciate it. I'll leave it there for now. Hope the contest finds you well. See you all later.